West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is a Monday. Good morning, everyone. Peter Boyle's in for the guys. They're back next week. July the 7th, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS. And it's going to go like this. 92 the high today. Strong storms this afternoon. 95 on Tuesday. And 100 record-breaking or record-making 100 degrees on Wednesday. That is hot stuff. So it is July in Colorado. It is time. Once again, I love this portion of the show, even no matter who's doing it. The Olson Report. Hit it and get it.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. It is Monday, and another beautiful one in Denver, as Pete said, 58 and sunny, expecting a high of 92 today. News is presented by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Now is the time to stand with Israel. Call 800-301-1188. That's 800-301-1188, or go to 710knus.com and click on the big red Stand with Israel banner at the top of the page. Our top story.
Wait a minute. This
is just...
Yes, sir.
Another.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Another opportunity to which to excel.
Yes.
Monday
yeah,
morning.
Exactly. See, I'm so used to Billy going to the bathroom at this time.
No, I mean,
when do you get a bathroom break?
I
man?
just took it. When you're old.
No, you know how to handle it.
No, you're being, after all the years of doing the job.
Yeah, exactly.
You learn how to.
Well, hey, I came up with a couple more names for your fights.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got Joy Reid and Candace Owens against.
Ooh.
I would enjoy that one. I would enjoy seeing Candace and Joy in that one.
Let me tell the folks where this comes from.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No. Yeah. Let's not. The Donald Trump has been known to attend the UFC fighting championships, and he's very close. Actually, a lot of the fights were at Taj Mahal, the Trump Taj, and Trump's a friend of Dana White's, who last year introduced Trump, president at the Republican National Convention, before he accepts the nomination. So now they're talking about having fights on the White House lawn.
Yes.
And UFC fights. And this is the epic. They're using that word. Of course, everything's epic. But White House press secretary has said Donald Trump's dead serious about epic fights on the White House lawn. So this began on Saturday. And so I thought, we decided Civic Center Park, right? Mm-hmm. And we put up a ring. We put up a ring in Civic Center Park.
Definitely.
We have a main event. We could have two. We could have a co-main and then a main, and then an undercard. Who would you like to see in Denver fight? And there's been some great ones. So you can pick people from anywhere. Netanyahu's in America. You could stick him in the ring.
Right. I mean, anybody. Entertainment, politics. It doesn't matter.
And
sports.
You could do pro wrestling too.
Yes.
We could have pro wrestling matches.
Yeah.
So who's your second match?
So I'd like to see Tim Walz and Byron Donalds.
Oh man.
I think that'd be a good. I think Donalds would destroy him, which I would love. But I would like to see Tim Walz in the ring so someone could get a couple good licks on him.
The best fight I think so far that's been promoted is Joe from Arvada versus Bill Thorpe.
That would be a good one, man.
That's our good fight.
Feisty, yeah, that is.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
That would bring everything.
Yeah, we could do that one.
No doubt. I love that.
Kyle Clark versus, do you want him to fight Jeffy or do you want him to fight Dan Caplis?
Oh, man.
See, we already got Billy on the card.
Yeah,
so.
either or. I'll take Jeff on that one because I want to see him wear his cowboy hat
In the ring.
in the ring.
Sure. But see, then now you got the morning.
Dan can take care of who did we say earlier?
Governor Polis.
Polis. What am I saying?
Now, is that a main or is that a semi-main or a co-main
I
event?
think that'd be a main.
All right.
To me, that would be.
All right, so we have that. Mm-hmm. Let me see who else.
Then coming from outside the state, I really want to see. This is just my own personal thing. I want to see Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith. I really want to see that one.
And so there's
because Stephen A. Smith cannot fight. He cannot. He has no. He's not even athletic. No. Everybody thinks he is. I mean, he had a chance to throw out the first pitch in a Yankees game. And I mean, come on!
Did you ever get to throw one out? I did once
in a minor league game.
I did in a Rocky
East
game.
Texas.
Did
you?
Game. Yeah.
How did it go?
I got it in the catcher's glove, which is always worried about. And
you didn't bounce it, right?
No, I didn't. I got it was
got it there.
It was Harley Davidson afternoon game and
cool.
And we rode Harleys around the track. And
that's cool.
And I got to throw out the first pitch. And they give you and I have it. I cherish it. Mm-hmm. It's me on the mound and has my name. You can see my name in the lights like they do for
that's cool.
And I'm bringing it.
It's a little further than it looks, right? I mean, when you get up there, you're probably on the rubber and you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute now. I gotta make sure I launch this one to get it there." That's awesome, though. You did. I can't stand it when I see someone one hop it.
Throw it in the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, throw it in.
The only thing I asked for. The only thing I asked for was, don't let me bounce it. You know,
absolutely.
And they don't give you a glove or anything. You throw without a glove.
Right.
And I made it.
Did you push off the rubber? How did you do it?
Yeah.
Good. You rotated your foot, dropped in there.
I was going to do the whole thing. I was going to drop over and put the ball behind my back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, and then I was going to shake them off.
Yeah. So were you wearing the pinstripes or
no? I was just regular. We didn't put a uni on. No, we didn't have unis. But
that's cool.
I was going to do the whole thing. I was going to.
That's fun, man.
Shake them off twice.
That's really cool. Yeah, shake them off. Yeah, exactly. Look over your left shoulder.
Yeah, throw them the heater.
Real quickly, and then I'll keep on going here. Who was the greatest Pittsburgh Pirate ever? That was your team, right?
Oh yeah, as a kid growing up.
Yeah,
Clemente.
Clay has to be.
Yeah. But
I would think.
I know guys that named their sons Roberto. I grew up with it. Because of Clemente,
my father-in-law loved Clemente. Loved him.
He was it.
Yeah.
We used to go to the games and then sit in the right field, and that's really the cheap seats. Mm-hmm. And he'd catch balls and flip them up. They had a thing called the knot hole club, and if you were a kid in a baseball uniform, you could come and. If it was day games, and a lot of day games.
Yeah.
And he would catch, and he'd flip the ball up into the.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he was.
That is.
And
cool.
then I read his book, and he was angry. I mean, he got treated.
Yeah.
We saw him for the first time. We used to have to sell bonds, little league bonds, to keep and go into bars and sell them. I mean, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we went to. There was a bakery that brought Bob Friend, Roberto, and Elroy Face for a kickoff. And we went to see, and his first baseball card says Bob Clemente. He didn't speak English.
Yeah, well, that's right. Sure did.
And we didn't know, we couldn't figure out who he was.
Wow.
And we knew Bob Friend, obviously, and we know Elroy Face, but I remember that he spoke Spanish.
Yep.
And I grew up with people who spoke Italian and Polish and Sicilian. Mm-hmm. I never heard, we were really stumped.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Like, what language is that?
But he was, and he died in such a noble way.
Tragic.
And I think Clemente was our guy. I mean, I loved him.
I would agree. I was hoping you'd say that.
Well, Matt, there. Who was
Love
yours?
No, I'd say Clemente, no doubt. And then anyone on the, in the 70s, that team was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we are family.
We're family, yeah.
Yep, all those guys.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say that I loved baseball when I was a kid, and pro football had not really gained its footing yet.
Right.
But it was baseball was America's pastime, and
absolutely.
Man, oh man, I just loved baseball.
Yeah.
And we'd listen on radio at night. Bob Prince.
The culture. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I wrote a story.
The culture of that is incredible.
I worked in a pool room when I was a kid, and you walked through an alley and another alley and then up to Allegheny River Boulevard. But the day games were always on. Bob Prince called the games, and people put the radios in the windows. And they had the screens, remember the screens that you could expand and contract and make them wider.
Yeah,
and nobody had air conditioning.
Yeah, and they're like an air conditioner.
I could walk home and listen to a game.
That
from the pool room.
So cool.
There'd be like all the radios would be on, and
that is what a memory.
Yeah, come through the alleys, and you could listen to the games walking home. Yeah. So by the time everybody.
By the time we got home, it was the fourth inning.
Everybody had the game on.
That is great.
Yeah, no, but it was.
That is so cool.
Different time.
In the hilly Pittsburgh alleys, right?
Well, just walking.
Probably lived on a hill.
Yeah, the old man did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
cool, man.
That was it. I'm sorry to have done this to you.
No, don't apologize. I love it. You just made my week.
There we go.
I can dream about Pittsburgh and Major League Baseball and listening to it on the radio as you walk home.
It's a sports town. It was.
Yeah, it is.
It's there's.
Great place.
I tell everybody in the Steelers, like in Colorado, when the Broncos play, and especially in the winter, you can go skiing. The sun comes out. Pittsburgh, no. You're not going anywhere.
That's right.
And the team is called the Stillers.
Yep, the Stillers. That's right. Downtown and the Stillers, right?
Stillers. I can still speak the language, but
yeah, you can.
Go do the news.
Love it. All right, our top story. Here's Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
This is it's unbelievable. And Texas is grieving the pain our state is feeling. There are not words to describe it.
More than 80 people are dead after massive flash flooding in central Texas, of course. Search and rescue efforts continue, including at a girls' camp on the Guadalupe River, where officials confirmed 27 campers and counselors have died in the 4th of July flooding. Dozens more are still missing across the state.
We picked up our youngest daughter last week from camp 5 miles away, right here on the Guadalupe River. What happened at Camp Mystic, what happened here, I think the latest count is 82 people have been killed. They're still searching. 10 girls are still missing from the camp.
The National Weather Service confirming that a tornado was spotted in Morgan County Sunday afternoon. It reportedly formed about 13 miles east of Fort Morgan just before 4 o'clock. The landspout tornado lasted about 5 minutes, no immediate reports of damage. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will be at the White House today to meet with 47. Trump has continued to press the Israeli leader about a ceasefire agreement between the country and Hamas to end the war in Gaza. DOJ releases a 10-hour video of the night Jeffrey Epstein died, saying it proves that he took his own life. And they say there is no evidence he kept a client list. So once again, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail? Good question. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent this morning, he says there will be several trade announcements in the next 48 hours regarding tariffs.
When he said that there's a chance that countries could boomerang back to their April 2nd reciprocal tariff levels, we've had a lot of people change their tune in terms of negotiations. So my mailbox was full last night with a lot of new offers, a lot of new proposals. So it's going to be a busy couple of days. But importantly, too, that President Trump has said that the countries would not go back to the reciprocal rate until August 1st.
Hundreds of firefighters continue to try to get control of a massive wildfire burning in Southern California. The Madre Fire in San Luis Obispo County has now charred over 80,000 acres since it broke out this past Wednesday. Cal Fire officials say the fire is 30% contained. Heavy rain from Tropical Depression Chantal has slammed central North Carolina, causing flash floods there and major damage. CDOT is beginning to repair bridges over Denver, over the Denver area, and railroad tracks. Work on the Buckley Road Bridge over I-76 in Adams County is set to begin today. Traffic on the bridge will be reduced to one lane until construction is finished. All right, the Rockies with the win over the White Sox, 6-4. It is 62 in Aurora, 60 in Golden, 64 in Denver, and Peter the Legend is in for Jeff and Billy this week. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very warm temperatures, partly cloudy skies, and afternoon and evening thunderstorms. That's how we'll get the week started for today and for tomorrow before drier air comes in and lesser thunderstorm chances mid to late week. Highs will be upper 80s and lower 90s today, low to mid 90s Tuesday. For today and Tuesday, scattered afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms possible. Nighttime lows upper 50s to low 60s. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist on day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
It's Peter Boyles and Tom Moller. And for Jeff and Bill, it's Monday, July 7th, 2025, 710 KNUS. You heard the weather. Storms coming in this afternoon. And joining me, and we have been friends and worked together for such a long time, Tom Moller. But this is a really special morning for me. And I didn't know how to approach this, and Tom said, we'll do it together. This is 51 years for me in the radio business. It was 51 years ago. Last night my daughter was born, and I was working for Dan Hopkins at the AAA Auto Club. I was the writer for the traffic reports, and the traffic reporter didn't come to work. And I was a brand new dad. I was in grad school, and I went on air. And with Bob Lee.
With Bob Lee.
With Bob Lee.
And boy, do we have an intersection there with Bob, because I was on the air much later with Bob.
Yeah. And he announced to Denver that my daughter was born. And 51 years, Tommy.
Does that blow your mind?
What's that song? Didn't that blow your mind that time? Didn't it? Yeah, I thought about it a lot last night, and what it was like, and what you didn't know, and all the things that you had to. I had great teachers. I think that's how I had Ed Green, Gus Merkus, Bob Lee, Uncle Mike McEwen. They're names that people don't remember anymore. Jack Merker, listening to Hal Moore and Charlie Martin, and I mean those guys. They taught us. I don't know if that still goes on, but.
Well, it is such a highly formatted business now that you don't have time for mentors like that.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that would teach us stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Gus Merkus taught me a lot. Bob Lee, of course, taught me everything.
Yeah, Right.
Even the bad stuff.
Well, we've all run across stuff like that along the way too. But here, you and I are both here at our age,
still gigging,
still doing it.
Yeah,
you know.
But it was 51 years ago, and I remember coming home from the hospital and thinking, "You better get serious. You got a kid."
Yeah,
and
that does it, doesn't it? Yeah.
My dad had passed away, and I was broke. I was broke, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea.
And you were just telling me before we went on the air, how long did it take from that 51 years to fall in love with this business?
Oh, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
3 maybe.
I know. Yeah.
I just, Jack Merker, who is no longer with us, but Jack had been Billboard Magazine's program director of the year at Kim Radio.
Mm-hmm.
And he was running Cat Radio. And there were some things that had happened internally in the business at Cat. And he said he was looking for a weekend disc jockey. And I was doing his traffic reports. And we did them on the phone lines. I'd never been in the studio. I never saw microphones. I never saw equipment. And he said, well, and I was in school. And he said, come down. And I went down on a Friday after I did the morning show, and I went to class and came down. And I watched him, and I walked in to the first radio station I'd ever walked into. And there was the turntables and, the cart machines, and the board was, you couldn't touch end to end, and 4 turntables, and it looked like Star Wars, and I had no idea. And he had a log, and I could he's pulling records and carts and stacking stuff, and after a while you watch, and there's a method to it. You're reading it off the log, and you know what you're doing, and picking music and cueing records. So I watched him, and then he said, "Come back tomorrow." And I was working for Dan, and I did travel and recreation reports, and I'm working with Bob Lee.
Yeah.
And then I would get down, and I watched him for about an hour and a half. Then he said, trade me seats. And he took the seat you're in, and I had the jump mic, and I had this mic. And he said, and he stood up and he said, do radio. And he walked out, Jack Merker. And I did probably the worst,
of course,
45 minutes of Denver radio. And then we're done. And he said, the Playboy Club was upstairs. And they let disc jockeys and everybody come up and drink free and let guys in. And he said, let's go get a drink. Music to my ears. And we went up, we had a couple of drinks, and he said, he said, you're not bad. He said, you could do this. And I'm thinking, and he said, but I want you to practice and come to the production room at night and play radio and make those skimmer tapes. I hated skimmers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, everybody hates skimmers.
Yeah.
What skimmers are, for the folks in the audience, is the only time that it records is when the mic switch is on. When you're on the air, and it skims out records and spots and weather and everything. It's just you.
And it spotlights your voice and your style.
Then you have to sit with the program director and get punched in the face.
Boy.
Oh, God. And I did skimmers, and I was sitting there on a Friday night, and I went, I like this.
Yeah.
I mean, more than I liked grad school, more than I liked anything. I liked radio.
Yeah.
And I think, did you have the moment?
Well, yes, I did. But I had the moment before I was in broadcast.
Before you got in, you're like Danny, the guy that fell in love with it before.
I was in 8th grade.
Wow.
And I was at a county fair. I grew up in Niles, Michigan, as you know, and farm boy. And we were at a county fair, and walking down the midway to the right-hand side, I saw this radio station broadcasting.
Oh.
And I looked over that way, pointing, saying, wow, there's a radio station. It was a St. Joe, Michigan radio station broadcasting from the fair. and I walked right into a post.
Even then.
Even then.
Even then.
And, of course, I say that it knocked the sense out of me, and I went into radio.
Radio, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that really, truly was my moment. That, and also I knew at that time that I could make people laugh. I had just a knack, and I became sort of the class clown for the laughter,
Sure.
And, of course, those things merged into being a rock and roll disc jockey.
Yeah, I was never a rock and roll. I was a country jock, and I was an MOR jock, middle of the road jock.
Yeah.
But I never got to do top 40. But I could do the voice.
On the go on the Tommy Moller Show with stacks of wax and mounds of sounds.
Mounds of sounds and sacks. I could do that voice.
You're riding round and around on a merry Moller go-round.
See, but I worked with Mike McEwen and Bob and Handsome Roger and all those guys, and they were those guys.
Yeah, that's right.
They jocked. Well, Bob didn't. I don't know if Bob ever top 40'd it, but he was a top 40 jock.
Well, he was, Rock and Rebel.
Rock and Rebel, Robert E. Lee.
And I was at college down the road at Michigan State when he was the Rock and Rebel in Detroit.
Did you listen to him? Did you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then after the whole thing, when he moved into Christian radio, I was when I hired him, but I only knew him as Bob Lee.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
You didn't know the real Bob Lee.
Well, that's true. But after, and of course I knew he was at K-How and all that.
Detroit Lee.
And we shook, we came to terms, shook hands.
He was the best ever.
And he told me, well, back in Detroit I was known as, I said, you were the Rock and Rebel?
Was the Rebel.
I have the Rock and Rebel working for me. I want your autograph.
He was also Bosco Bob.
Yeah.
and he sold, there was a drink for kids that was called Bosco. And you put it in, they put a cowboy suit on him, and he couldn't stir the Bosco. And he was Bosco Bob. And those guys were everybody guys.
I know.
They were the best.
I do. And I'm so pleased to be your friend.
Ah.
And you mine. And congratulations, 51 years.
Let's see if we can get 52 out of this.
Yeah, I understand that too. We're the very same age, you and me.
Yes, we are. That hurts too.
Well, yeah.
So I must have been, I don't know what, but it just this business made more sense to me than anything I'd ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And a business makes no sense to anybody.
Yeah, true.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And the great line, I think it was a Bob Lee line, he said, we're head football coaches. I said, what does that mean? He said, they hire you because only one day they're going to fire you.
Yeah.
And he said, they're going to know that, so stick around. Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
We got to do a break, and then we'll do it again. We'll come back, get some calls. I got Leanne Wheeler coming up, 710 KNUS. All right, everybody, good morning one more time. Monday, July the 7th, 2025. I'm Peter Boyles. I'm doing the job this week. The boys will be back, plus we do our Saturday show as well. 92 the high with strong storms and sunny and hot tomorrow, 95 degrees. And open lines. Let's go back to the phones. We go to Gary in Weld County. Gary, you're on a radio show. Good afternoon. Or good afternoon. Good morning, man. Thank you.
Hi, Peter. Happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you very much.
And you said that it brought up a memory 51 years ago. I don't know if you remember reporting on it, but the fireworks at Bear Stadium, it blew up behind the gate in center field. They all blew up. And I don't know. I was only 10 years old, but
I'll take it.
I don't know if anyone got really hurt on that. I never knew about that part, but
No.
I remember we were bummed out. They all blew up behind the gate on the east side of the south stands.
I didn't know that, but I'll take it. Go ahead.
And I don't know if you remember the boxing match between the Denver Police Department and the Moscow Police Department at the old Regency Grand Ballroom.
Yes, I do. I was
1980s.
there. I was there.
Yeah.
I was there for those fights.
Yeah, I set that up. I worked there for almost a decade in that hotel.
Were you involved in the firefighters, Denver cops, or all cops, all firefighter fights that took place in Glendale? Were you there that night?
Not in Glendale. I worked at the Regency Hotel. But I remember the Moscow police. I mean, they had to us pretty good, except for one guy. One guy did pretty good. One of our boxers.
Oh, they might as well have been professional fighters. The Soviets. I mean, the Denver guys were just fighters, but these guys, they were pros, and that there were alleged trainers. They were KGB guys. Do you remember that, the KGB guys that were in the double-breasted suits? That were real.
I remember them being strange. It was strange because I was a bar back. We set up the seats.
Okay. No,
but,
it was.
I know you remember that.
No, the guys look like those the Khrushchev suits. The big baggy suits, and they were saying. Somebody said, "What are they?" And they're the trainers. If they were the trainers, I'm a Sigma Nu. They were KGB guys.
They were all military, huh?
Oh well, they were the secret cops. They were and they traveled with the team to make sure nobody defected. I'm serious.
And nowadays, I tell my buddies and such, and they think I'm all full of crap. So, but I know it. I was there.
It happened. No, I was there too. It happened, and they were tough. They were They were Moscow City cops, is what they put them over as. But they were pro fighters. I mean, and the Denver guys really had a hard time that night.
And Pete, in the late 70s in our high school, we had smokers.
Sure.
And they even had the tag team boxing where the teachers did. They participated in it. And I participated in it.
Oh, sure.
This kid that we had a little feud, but we got it settled in the ring, and it was huge boxing gloves, big old headgear, and I tell people about that, and they're like, "You're full of crap." I'm like, "It happened." No, it was in Mapleton Public Schools, and
we used to fight
1979.
Smokers on Friday night, and they had the fish fries and the big sandwiches with the fish hanging over the sides, and the old guys were drinking beer, and we'd in the ring and hit each other.
So they should do that again at the city and county and have a smoker, and then you could sign up against the city council or whatever. That would be so fun. They can raise so much money to feed people or whatever.
We were making fights. So no, that kind of stuff. I think it's just over. It was.
Can't have that anymore.
No, thank you. You just can't have that.
You can't tell a kid to run a lap anymore. Take a lap. Oh, no, that's abuse.
The fact that you were there that night, that was a hell of a night. I was there. You take care of yourself. All right?
Take care, Mr. Boyles.
It's Peter. Thanks, man. All right, we go to Matt in Littleton. Matt, you're on a radio show, 303-696-1971. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. So good to be with you on a weekday. But I woke up pretty sad this morning, Peter, because what I saw is the betrayal that I don't think America survives, and that is Donald Trump's led cover-up manipulation of the Epstein files and the release, and asking MAGA to believe that there is no evidence there. He was not murdered. He hung himself, and there's no list, and there's no justice coming.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it for a second. So now what you have to understand with Donald Trump, he lost MAGA pretty early, and here's the three areas he lost them. Number one, we demanded action on the Epstein list. You want to clean the swamp? You start right there. Republican, Independent, and Democrat, you put them all in a place that makes them scream. That's what we wanted. Number two, we thought we were going to get lower prices. We thought we were going to get some America first, like economic and crime, and everything was about America. That has so far been the last place. The only thing that he's done is close the border. And then what has he done? He's doubled down on AI, mRNA technologies. There's no arrests. How long did it take Merrick Garland to start arresting January 6 people? And we've heard nothing. Peter, you can't recover from a betrayal like this, can you?
Well, it is always a truth, whomever the president is. You start out making campaign promises, and they always find a way to go to hell.
Right.
But this event or this issue we're talking about this morning, for the folks that are just joining the show, this is Jeffrey Epstein. And a memo has been leaked, and I think it got to ABC News. And now the government, the DOJ, and the FBI have concluded, this is what they're telling us to swallow, that there is no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein, convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful people, which of course he did, and he kept a client list, or that he was murdered. Now, the administration has released this, and they said, look, there is no evidence of Jeffrey Epstein keeping a list. There is no conspiracy theories about Epstein's activities, and that his death was a suicide. And it's been pointed out by Eric this morning, all the different things about what they said initially. I'll just read this as a very well taken text message. Peter, the big deal with the Epstein case, and I remember this, the two black corrections officers, a female officer named Tova Knoll and a male officer named Michael Thomas, they were held accountable because they weren't watching Epstein for Epstein's death, because they didn't do their timely roll call, which was BS, and they got charged. But where are they now? Quiet as church mice. It goes on. Catherine Hawks Sawyer, the director of prisons, Bureau of Prisons, front in the Senate committee, held by Chairman Lindsey Graham, and still nothing came of it. I agree with you, Peter, and you know, Peter, how much I love President Trump, but I've lost a lot of respect towards President Trump. This is this morning on the Jeffrey Epstein lie. It is. I mean, and I'll read this line that I've read like 4 times this morning that just doesn't make any sense to me. And this is the verbal diarrhea part of it. According to the FBI and the DOJ, I'll read what does this mean? No charges are expected in connection with their probes into Epstein, as investigators did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Matt, what does that mean?
That means there wasn't a notebook and a videotape right there on the kitchen counter when we walked in, and so therefore we're going to stop looking. None of these people, including Trump, Peter, want to know everything and have it released to everyone. If you heard the Candace Owen reporting where she says Trump called her and said, stop talking about Macron's transvestite wife, husband, whatever that thing is, don't you think that was a peek into the ideology that's going behind this Epstein list? That, hey, listen, I know it's disgusting. I know Macron's wife is a disgusting old hag, but it's really bad for business if we're doing that in the midst of global things. Don't you think he's applying that same standard? It's going to be too destructive to the world once that list gets out. I mean, he's protecting other people's ass and what chaos? I don't understand what he thinks should happen.
The only experience that I had was Denver Players, Denver Sugar, when we took the point on that story and what happened in the aftermath of people there was people that don't know it. A young man named Scotty Ewing was his name, and he was the owner, if you would, of. There were 4 locations to serve you, and the mayor showed up on a call list that got bootlegged to us, and I called the number on the air, and he said, "Hi, this is Michael." We knew it was his phone number, and he was a John. He was a trick, and we broke the story, and I ended up going to the guy's house. We've talked about it probably too many times, and then he agreed to do one interview, and he agreed to do the morning show on KHOW with me, which I think eventually, even though I did what I did, it cost me my job because I had stepped over the line. And the amount of, and it wasn't about this young guy, city councilman who had become the mayor. It wasn't about Michael Hancock. They didn't give a damn about Michael Hancock. But the power brokers were sweating rocks. And it was, it was the lawyers and the bond daddies and the athletes and the owners. And I suspect some media kingpins. I suspected all kinds of different people. Yep. They were the tricks. And Jeffrey, listen to me. And Scotty had these locations, and when the time came, everything disappeared. Lists disappeared. And I later found out from Chris Romer, who was the opponent, that there was actually video that the Denver PD put cameras on telephone poles outside of the one house of the Action House that was over by City Park, and that's where they had some pretty well-known characters going in and out of that building. Did you think you ever saw any of that? No. You think you saw any of the lists? No. And there were lists, and I'm told that there may be 2 locations where the lists exist. But that was a classic example of what this Epstein case is about. This isn't about Jeffrey Epstein per se. This is about all the bankers and bond daddies and, politicians and, that's about them. Look, Prince Andrew, my God. Prince Andrew with his arm around
He's the only one, huh?
Yeah, only Andrew. And it's really interesting. The BBC did a piece on who is named in the court filings, and Bill Clinton's there, Bill Gates is there, Prince Andrew. And I thought the odd one was Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's listed on it as well. And so, who knows? But the point of it is, I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. And
Peter, think about this. If the list was fake and it was all conspiracy. I mean, literally, this was made up by a guy in a basement. There never was a list of rogue pedophile. You would expect what the Democrats are doing, which is staying silent.
Sure.
But what blows me away is they know how true that list is, and they don't say a peep.
Not a word.
They could seize this moment right now and say Trump is withholding information and stopping investigations, and they could pounce him right now, Peter, because they know what's inside of that thing, and they know it brings the whole house down. So
good call.
Don't stop, Mega, and stop accepting the lies. I mean, my goodness, this one takes the cake, Peter. Great job. We'll catch you all week.
Done. All right, everybody. Hang on. We're going to come back with a good friend of mine. This is 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station on a Monday, the 7th of July. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday. I'm Peter Boyles in for the guys. July the 7th, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS 303-696-1971. This is going to be a cool segment in the next hour. This is Leanne Wheeler, and through Brother Jeff, and I do a television show with Brother Jeff on YouTube about once, two, three times a month maybe. And I met Leanne, and she was part of Jeff's show, and we've become friends. And so we were talking about CCWs and a bunch of different things, and she has a CCW and what she went through, and I invited her on the show. But you wanted to make a comment. We were talking about Diddy, and I watched this. No, this is serious. I watched last night, and I've never seen it before. Apparently it's played before, on CNN about the whole this rap East Coast, West Coast, and then into the murders of Big and what happened, and
Tupac and
and everything about it, and then it got down to Puffy or Diddy, then Diddy in jail. And I said I really believed when he was first put, and I think it's the Tombs, and he's in jail in Brooklyn. Where are the Tombs? They're in New York someplace, but I said they'll kill him like they killed Jeffrey Epstein. And you said no.
I don't think so. I disagree. I think the difference between Diddy and an Epstein, Diddy already has his network of folks and I believe protection. And so I don't inside. Yeah, I don't think he ends up murdered inside.
Well, Jeffrey Epstein was only in there for a cup of coffee when I think he was killed.
Yeah, he was murdered.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was.
Thank you.
As soon as it happened, I thought, "What? There's no way this guy kills himself."
What about that he didn't keep a client list?
Of course, he kept a client list.
Of course, he did.
Of course, he did. And we was chatting about it earlier with Adam. It's like, listen, it might have been keyed or coded. They may not have used real government names per se, but they certainly kept a list. There's no doubt in the world. Yeah. And
this idea that he took his own life.
Yeah, no, that's no.
See, and I really thought that would happen because what do you think Diddy knows?
Everything. He knows everything. And but I just think it's a different network, different access. And I get the moneyed piece when you're talking Epstein and those in the top 1%, top echelon in banking and all the things. I get that. It's different when you're talking about networks and street networks and, people who are working in corrections, and it's just a different thing.
But it's the same thing.
Well, what they did is the same thing.
In terms of
exploiting people.
Trafficking.
Yeah.
There's my music. Sit still. So a great hour right ahead of us. Leanne Wheeler, Peter Boyle, 710 KNUS. Jeff and Bill will be back a week from today. I'm back here tomorrow. 710 KNUS on a very, very hot Monday.